All right, guys, welcome back. Good evening. Seahawks wrap up their second preseason game with a loss at the buzzer. Titans take it with a field goal as the clock hits 16 to 15. So, obviously, it was not quite what we saw last week against the Chargers. That was a fairly dominant performance. We didn't get that this week. There was definitely a little more sense of a back and forth. There were definitely significant things that didn't go the way the Seahawks probably wanted them to go. But overall, another pretty good preseason game. Another game that makes me feel fairly optimistic about where things are going. And a game that gives me a lot to be excited about as we head into the actual season here. So let's try to talk about it. Obviously, I just got done doing a live stream where I spent 3 hours talking about it to the chat. By the way, we had a good time over there. Thank you everybody who showed up to that stream. Thank you to everybody who participated one way or the other. Thank you to everybody who liked that stream. Thank you to everybody who allowed me to make a stream like that happen, where I'm in there with hundreds of other people. Okay, so the Seahawks. Let's start with the offense here because honestly, I think the offense was the side of the ball that in this game you might have been a little more excited about than the defense, which is a departure from last week. So let's just start moving through the offense here because that first half pretty good, right? I mean, those first two drives, you got Sam Howell airmailing a really, really bad pass to Jake Bobo on a 3rd and short. Would have been a first down. Should have been a pretty easy completion. Instead, he completely airmails it like 5 yards over Bobo's head. Not easy to get the ball over Bobo's head, by the way. You've got a sack given up by Stone Forsythe where he kind of gets tripped up by Kenny McIntosh. So you're seeing some of that stuff early, and you're like, oh, this could be a long day. We're not going to be able to move the ball. And then it just kind of clicks in, and Sam Howell's able to build up a rhythm. Sam Howell was able to make some really nice, competitive, meaningful NFL caliber throws. And the offense got going there at the end of the first quarter and throughout much of the second quarter. And while I understand that most of the players out there are not the players we're going to have out there when the season starts, that was that was good. That was a good extended period of offensive success with the touchdown and then the 2 field goal drives. So offensively, when those guys were in there, I was feeling really good about what I was looking at. Howell took like one bad sack and then he had the one really bad throw. Other than that, he was hitting pretty much all the marks he needs to hit. And unlike last week, there were a couple throws in there where he had to gun it in, where he actually had to push it down the field, get it into a spot that is at least a little bit risky, and trust his arm strength and his accuracy to get the ball where it needed to go. And it worked. So I thought Howell looked much better than he did in the last preseason game. And he didn't look bad against the Chargers, but I thought he looked really good in this one. Kenny McIntosh, wow. I mean, the blocking thing is a problem. He's got to pick up the blocking. He's got to figure that part out, or else he's not going to be able to see the field enough. But he looked good running with the ball. He looked good catching the ball. He's got moves. He's got the ability to break tackles. He's got the ability to push through tackles. He's got a lot of stuff in that bag of tricks. So if you want to find the guy who's maybe done the most to improve his stock as a Seahawk on offense over the last 2 weeks, McIntosh might be the guy. And don't get me wrong, he's got to block. You got to be able to block. This week he kind of helped cause a sack by tripping Stone Forsythe. Last week he straight up allowed a sack. So there are problems, but he looks good. And he looks all the way back from whatever injury he had last year. So that was great. Good stuff from Kenny McIntosh. Really excited about what I'm seeing there. Easop Winston Jr., awesome game. And that's a guy who may very well not be able to make it to our practice squad. We might end up trying to stash him and failing. And I think we're going to have to just do it. But either way, that's a guy who is making plays out there. He had the really nice touchdown catch. He made other nice catches in this game. I think he had the one where he was going out of bounds and PJ Walker led him a little too much, but he still made a great catch. Like, that's not his fault. Cody White. Cody White, another guy who's fighting his butt off to make this roster. I'm not saying I think he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to do it, but he almost made a house call. He almost made an 80-yard house call. He was like one slipped tackle away from making a house call on like a 70, 80-yard throw. So he made a nice play in this game. He's doing good things out there. Derek Young, I mean, I know it was just the one catch, but that play impressed me. McClendon Curtis gets whipped to the inside. Immediate pressure on Howell. Howell makes a great throw right into the pressure. And Derek Young comes back, makes a great catch. Felt like that play sparked the offense a little bit because previous to that play, there wasn't really a lot going on. And then that one play, it felt like things changed. So, yeah, statistically, you're going to look at this day from the offense and you're going to say, yeah, that wasn't that great. A lot of problems. Could have been better. And yeah, it definitely could have been. I mean, there were points left out on the field out there. There were opportunities to do more damage than we did. There were mistakes made. There were some penalties. But those are the things that I'm looking at right now, and I'm thinking, I think things are starting to settle a little bit here. So, Brady Russell, the drop before in the second quarter was really bad, but he came back and made good plays down the stretch. He made what almost was the game winner, the kind of decisive play to set up that go-ahead field goal inside of 2 minutes. So even he continues to find a way to grind. How about A.J. Barner? Just the one catch, but it's a good catch. It helps us score. And then he's throwing big-time blocks for the rest of that drive. There was a sequence in this game where he had a catch for almost 20 yards, and then he threw back-to-back really good blocks to spring McIntosh on good runs. So, yeah, A.J. Barner, we might need you more than I thought we were going to need you this year. You look like you're ready to be needed, at least in that capacity. You're not going to be all-pro or nothing, but you can play. I like what I see there. I didn't notice anything too bad coming from most of the offensive line. The interior I was pretty happy with. Haynes at left guard committed one penalty, but in terms of his blocking, yeah, pretty on board. Olu, didn't notice anything particularly bad from him. He'll be fine as a backup. And then, of course, Bradford at right guard I thought looked good. There were a couple plays where McIntosh was following him, and he's clearing out holes. So, overall, I was definitely encouraged with what I saw from the early parts of the offense. That first half with Howell out there, yeah, we got something. Obviously, PJ Walker goes in there, and I don't really feel the need to kill PJ Walker because we all know what's up with PJ Walker. He's very limited in what he can do in the NFL. That was obviously, for the most part, the bad PJ Walker. That's the PJ Walker that doesn't belong even on a practice squad. And that's the PJ Walker you're going to get sometimes. Basically threw one good pass the whole game, maybe two. I think we picked up 2 first downs in the second half, and one of them was a roughing the passer. So PJ Walker goes in there, and he's not a credible NFL quarterback today, and you get what you get. So, yeah, PJ Walker sucked. And every now and then you try to put him in an NFL game, that's what you're going to get. That's why he will not be making an NFL roster this year in all likelihood, but I don't feel the need to belabor that because he is what he is. So, for the most part, offensively, I'm pretty good. The stuff that matters, again, PJ Walker doesn't really matter. PJ Walker might be our practice squad quarterback. I don't think it goes any further than that. So, I'm not going to beat up on a guy who ultimately we know what he is. And we know he's not good enough to make this team, and he shouldn't make this team, and I don't think that he will. So, that's the offense. Pretty good. Pretty happy about most of that. The defense started out real good. Defense, I mean, again, it's mostly our backups against their backups, but Derek Hall, that's a guy who matters this year. Played really well. Had a sack. Had a couple nice plays against the run. There was one play where he was getting double teamed, and he still stretched the run play out to the sideline to tackle it for like no gain, maybe a loss of one. So, Yeah, Derek Hall, that matters. How about Tyrese Knight? He played a huge chunk of this game, and I thought he looked really good. He was consistently making stuff happen in the run game, consistently there in the backfield, made some really nice plays, had one TFL wiped off the board because of a holding penalty on, I think, Bars. So Tyrese Knight has now strung two really good preseason games in a row, back to back together. So I'm really happy about that. That was cool. Byron Murphy only played a little bit, but he splashed a little bit, made some impact. Not like he did against the Chargers, but it was fine. It was good. So yeah, the early parts of the defense where we held the Titans to, like, what was it, 3 first downs in the first 25 minutes of the game or so. Yeah, sign me up for that. That was really good stuff. Excuse me. Ugh. So that was good. I liked what I saw from most of the first crew that played, right? Tackling was good. The pressure was consistent. It felt like we were consistently getting to Malik Willis. Mafe, I know he's kind of beating up on backups and he's a starter, so, take it as it should be taken, which is not super seriously, but he made plays. He looked good. Mike Morris, I thought, made some nice impact in the backfield. Even Miles Adams. Miles Adams, I thought, actually made several plays in this game that made me take note of the fact that he is still here and he's not going quietly into that night. Radigan looks better. So that's all well and good. But late in the second half of this game, late in the second quarter, excuse me, the Titans put in Mason Rudolph for a few drives. Seahawks sub in a lot of their third and fourth string, and it starts to remind you a little bit of a Pete Carroll defense. And I'm talking about the Pete Carroll defense of the last 2 years, not the Pete Carroll defense of the Legion of Boom. That would be nice. That would be exciting, but no, we didn't get that. We got the Legion of Boom defense that gives a soft cushion so that teams can attack the first down marker no matter where they are. How many times in the last 35 minutes of this game did the Titans convert 3rd and 15, 2nd and 17, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 10, 2nd and 12? Those situations the Titans were really good in that second part of the game. I'd say the last 35 minutes or so. We just couldn't get off the field on these obvious passing situations. The pressure wasn't getting home. The secondary was playing back really far. And mostly Mason Rudolph really just knew where to attack. Mason Rudolph did a really good job of finding the holes in this secondary and attacking it. And it kind of felt like what we saw last year. And it is worth noting, Carl Scott was calling the plays on defense in the second half, and it was Aiden Durd calling them in the first half. So neither half was called by Mike McDonald, and I do think you saw a difference there. So don't get me wrong, this is not something to be concerned about. There's no reason for Durd or Scott to be calling plays defensively at any point in the regular season, so this isn't something that's going to be replicated. But it is worth noting that things just felt a little more passive with Carl Scott calling those plays. Remember, Carl Scott is the lone Pete Carroll holdover. He's the only guy who worked under Carroll last year who is working under McDonald this year. So I think that that's a big part of it. That's a big part of why you saw what you saw out there today. And overall, it wasn't terrible because it's not like we got lit up on the scoreboard. We gave up 16 points, but it just felt a lot lazier. It just felt a lot less engaged. It definitely felt like one of those things where you're bending and you're bending and you're bending. It's bend, don't break. And sometimes you bend so far, it feels like you did break even if you technically didn't. Because the Titans kept kicking field goals, right? They kicked 3 field goals in the fourth quarter, but you routinely gave up stuff to them. Mostly not on the ground. There was a little bit of stuff on the ground. We gave up some big plays, like Julius Chestnut had a long run. Mason Rudolph had a couple of productive scrambles. Malik Willis, of course, he broke off, like, I think 1, maybe 2 successful runs. So mostly through the air. They just found the soft spots, and the soft spots were where we did not want them to be based on the down and distance situation. It did make you think a little bit about the defense we've had the last 2 years, and I don't think that's a coincidence based on who was calling the plays. So DJ James, if you were going to call somebody out, had a bad day. He got beat several times, and he had bad tackling. He committed a really bad penalty. A lot of penalties on both teams in this game, by the way. We had like 3 defensive holding calls. We had some false starts. Titans had a roughing the passer on a 3rd and long. They had some false starts. So a little bit sloppy in that regard as well, which is not surprising when you have a bunch of backups out there. So, yeah, that second and you could, certain extent, you could say 3rd unit on the defense. A lot of guys who are not going to make the team. I guess Jamie Sheriff was the one guy who maybe stood out in that second group. Ty Okada had an interception, really nice play, that ended up giving us a chance to go win this game. And I mean, he did his job. So it's not all bad, but you definitely saw the sloppiness come out. So DJ James, if there's anybody to really like beat up on a little bit right now as a player, it might be him. And with the way our depth in the secondary is shaking out, he might be the odd man out. It's possible. Like, if you're making a choice between him and Pritchett didn't do anything to like stand out today, but I don't think he did anything overly wrong. I think he made at least one nice play tonight. And DJ James, I'm not sure I can say that about. So, that's how you end up losing a close game. Can't get anything going offensively in the second half because PJ Walker didn't look like a real quarterback today. Just didn't have it. And the defense just bend, don't break. It's not bend, don't break. It's bend, and then kind of sort of break, but not completely. So, there you go. And special teams, I think we gave up some big kick returns, but they got all pulled back on penalty. We had a really good punt get wiped off the board because of a penalty. We also had one good kick return from D. Williams. And by the way, D. Williams, I think, took every punt return and most of the kick returns, which makes me wonder if he is going to make the team after all. I just don't know who comes off to make the team for him. And, yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about Jason Myers for a second here, because everyone's going to want to talk about Jason Myers. Another missed extra point that actually ends up being the difference in the game. I didn't like the contract when we gave it to him. I didn't like extending him. It's preseason. It doesn't matter yet, but I will say this. You're not going to hear the end of it from me if he's bad this year. If we don't get a really good year from Jason Myers, like top 5 kicker year from Jason Myers, you guys are not going to hear the end of it, because I didn't like the contract when we gave it to him. I don't think it made sense. And if he can't even find a way to have a good season in an even year, we're going to have some stuff to say. But overall, pretty good game. Let me know what you think down below. See you guys later. Go Hawks.